In this episode of Inside Discovery, we'll get a look at the new outdoor section of the Komodo dragon exhibit and say hi to Drogo. Then we'll join staff, volunteers, and campers as we explore some of the many enrichment activities the Science Center offers for both the animals that live there and the guests that visit them. But first, we're going to get to meet some of the people behind the landscaping at the center, which is designed not only to be beautiful, but useful and sustainable as well.
My name is Chandra, Metheny, and I'm the head of Horticulture and Grounds here at the Greensboro Science Center. And I make sure to oversee volunteers as well as staff in maintaining clean grounds. We are enhancing and maintaining our garden spaces as well as developing and designing new spaces. In this area here at the carousel, we are helping to maintain some of our botanicals. We have a lot of flowers this time of year that are being deadheaded. A lot of spent blooms are being maintained. We're clipping back certain plants that are going to be reblooming. We're making sure we keep everything lush and healthy. Today, our volunteers are helping us to clip back spent flower heads. We are maintaining the mulch, kind of raking to solarize that mulch to prevent weed seeds from coming up. We use all natural methods on our grounds to prevent weeds. We're also searching for pests and disease as we work through our campus. Volunteers come to us from our main volunteer base here at the Greensboro Science Center, as well as new volunteers coming in through applications online. You can find it under our website, under Getting Involved. We have volunteers seasonally, usually from about March through the beginning of December. The growing season is usually what we target. We welcome new volunteers to join our team. Usually that is in the mornings from about 7:30 until 10:30. Here at the carousel, we actually do have a lot of natives featured, a lot of wonderful perennials, which are also wonderful for our pollinators. We have coneflowers, verbenas, things like lavender that are drought tolerant. We also will be putting in several annuals in key spaces as well. This is actually called lollipop verbena, and it is absolutely fantastic for our butterflies. Right now, I am clipping it back so that it will remain bushy and bloom again. We have several, these are almost like umbels that the butterflies can land on. You'll see a lot of different insects on these plants, as a matter of fact. But it is very nectar rich, and we're very happy to have it here as part of our design here at the carousel. Yeah. Many species that we have at the Greensboro Science Center are non-toxic and edible for our animals, so that as we maintain, we are able to also provide something for them. And it's a really wonderful thing to be able to design things for the animals as well as beautify our campus. For any space, we will take into account what exhibit it may be near. We want to design certain areas exhibit side that perhaps will mimic the environment that animal comes from. We also hope to plant some things that are non-toxic that could be used for enrichment or browse for those animals. We do also want to ensure that we are beautifying the space for the public and add some fun educational facts to that area. We do also collect browse and enrichment items on our campus for our animal collection. That includes things that are edible like herbs that have been approved by our vet, as well as bamboo for our red panda.
This is our golden sweet bamboo. A nice grove provides shelter for the animals and a nice view for our visitors. We can use it for browse for multiple animals, but mainly for our red pandas, Tai and Usha. They will only eat the golden sweet bamboo, and they will only eat the leaves, so they are very picky with what they like to eat. It's very sweet, grows super fast, so it is a very invasive species. The roots will sort of crawl out very quickly, so at least once a week our team goes around and clips back those little problem areas. So like along the fence line, we'll clip those out and allow keepers to know that we have some browse available for them. We actually partner with the city of Greensboro to go to problem areas where it's more invasive, and we take it out and we feed it to the pandas. So we're helping to fight an invasive species and help to feed the pandas.
Drogo, the Science Center's Komodo dragon, has a new outdoor exhibit, and he seems to be right at home in the heat and humidity of North Carolina summers.
So we are actually at our outdoor Komodo exhibit. This actually just opened last month. They finished it about a month ago, so he's been outside for about that long and he's enjoying it. If you look on the exhibit, he's got a lot of rocks and plants, and he's got a nice pond that he can lay in. It's got a different like level, so he can go up and down, so it's a good exercise for him to crawl over some of these rocks to build up some leg muscles. And he's also been digging. There's certain places in the exhibit where he's found good places to dig, so it's a good terrain for him. Komodos are found on Komodo Island in Indonesia, so it's usually about 90 degrees, probably a little bit more humidity than it is here. So our North Carolina summers are perfect for them, and it's a good thing for them to get natural UV, so having them outside gives them the natural sunlight, so that's a good thing. And then also people get to see him outside rather than in, and then he's actually more active out here than he is inside. So it's a good thing for him to have both options. So in the winter he'll stay inside. He does have a UV and heat lamp, and we have a heater unit going, so it stays nice and toasty. It's at least 90 degrees and 65% humidity inside during the winter, so he's just fine. So Drogo is 7. He will turn 8 in January. He's about 6.5 feet long. The last weight we got on him was about 61 pounds. He is a male Komodo, so males can get between 8 and 10 feet long and weigh 150 plus pounds, so he could definitely get a lot bigger than what he is now. He is of breeding age, so with also the outdoor component, if he were to get selected for breeding and bring in a female, you don't keep them together. So we would have 2 exhibits to separate them, and then you would bring them together for breeding only, because they're pretty ferocious when they're together, so you don't want them to hurt each other, so keeping them separated would be very beneficial. So Drogo here gets whole prey items like mice, chicks, guinea pigs, quail, rabbits, and then once a month we do a large whole prey item, so I'll either give him a big rabbit, a large chicken, or even some deer if we get that in. So it's a good exercise for them to work up their neck muscles, so it's kind of fun to watch. So Komodos do have venom glands. They're in the lower part of their jaw. They're still working on what exactly that venom does. Then they also do have the bacteria in their saliva. So Komodos out in the wild are going to have a lot worse bacteria because they're found in more gross environment. Where Drogo, he's not found in those environments, so it's not going to be as bad. But he still has those venom glands in his mouth.
It's cleaning day for Bertha the Python, and when it comes to cleaning the habitat of a 13-foot, 100-pound snake, you better call in your friends.
Today we're going to be doing a bedding change on Bertha. Bertha gets a bedding change about 3 to 4 times a year. So today Bertha is about 27 years old. He's roughly probably about 13 to 14 feet. His last weight, he tends to hover between 90 and 100 pounds. We're actually going to get a weight on him today. We try to get a weight on him since we don't take him out that often. He is a big snake. We try to get a weight on him anytime we get our hands on him especially. So we start by we have a large trash can that we fill sometimes with water if he needs to soak, sometimes we don't, we can just put him in there. And that's his holding space, and we go back. Bertha is a big snake, so we do have to have several people to help us. So we usually get a couple of keepers, and we start feeding head first into the barrel, and then we just make sure that his head is at the top, and that we know he's okay, and especially if he's in the water, that he can get his head out of the water and breathe. So after we get Bertha into the barrel, we'll go in and we'll take some trash bags, brooms and dustpans, and we'll scoop all the old bedding out. He tends to leave a lot of shed in there too, and sometimes there will be feces or urates. Snakes don't actually have urine like we do. They have a more solid urate like a bird. And so sometimes there's things we missed, or if he's buried them as he's moved around. So we'll get all that cleaned out. We'll take some disinfectant to it and wipe it down. We'll let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. Give it a wipe down with a little bit of clean water, let it dry, and then we'll put fresh bedding in, and then he goes back in. We'll check him over for mites. That's one of our biggest issues medically that we get with our snakes. I actually just looked him over the other day. He has had issues with his nostrils, so I checked those. But typically we just give them a little bit of a visual. It's our time to really get a good look at them. So unless we have something that's ongoing or specifically that we're looking for, there's not a whole lot that we have to really look for in there. He is a big snake, so we do have several safety precautions. One is that we just have to have several people because he's heavy, so we could hurt ourselves that way. He's fairly docile, but that doesn't ever mean we want to underestimate him, because if we were ever working with him by ourselves and he got aggressive, then he could potentially hurt us. So even when we are in there cleaning, we always, because he is docile, we can just have somebody in the building. We don't have to have somebody directly with us. And also sometimes, because snakes will latch on and not let go, we do have alcohol back there if we ever needed to spray it in his mouth to get him to let go. We haven't needed any of those. So big pythons, big constrictors, pythons, anacondas, even some of the boa species too, they tend to live around 30 to 40 years. So he's around middle age. Our anaconda is somewhere between 30 and 40 years old, so she's definitely getting up there. We actually had a boa constrictor that lived around to be 35, so usually that 30 to 40 range is what you see in these larger snakes.
Enrichment is a common theme that runs through the very fabric of the Greensboro Science Center. It is important to satisfy both the physical and psychological needs of the animals, and it creates choices for them and enriches their environment. These things are also important when it comes to educating and fostering wonder and curiosity in young minds. Here at the Science Center, this enrichment process is sometimes a shared experience between our guests and the animals that call the center home.
So these are kids for one of our summer camps, and they made some enrichment for our maned wolves. So they made paper mache balls for our maned wolves, and we put a little bit of kibble in it, and we dropped it down so that they could see their enrichment being interacted with by the animals. Enrichment is something that stimulates the mind or body of the animal. It encourages natural behaviors that we would see in the wild, and it's something that keeps them kind of like having fun. So it's like a toy for a kid or something like that. It keeps them on their toes. So this was one that kind of encourages a foraging behavior. So they've got to go and sniff out the food. They've got to smell it. They've got to kind of dig through and find it. So it gives them that kind of enrichment. I think it's really important for kids to see the amount of work that goes into zoos and sees that that we put in a lot of effort to try to make sure that these animals have the best lives that they can possibly have. And it gives them a chance to see how to do that, and it can be super fun. So this is a project, like paper mache is fun for kids, so it's something that they get to have fun doing themselves, but then they see the animals having fun with it too. So we spend a lot of time teaching the campers about specific animals. We teach them about what we do as zookeepers, and we teach them about things like enrichment, making sure that it's important and safe for the animals.
So we've had a lot of fun this morning with our Animal Encounters Camp. It's one of our summer science camp experiences, which we think are so important for kids, especially right now, to be able to connect with each other, also with nature, and certainly with the animals that we have here at the Greensboro Science Center. So we spend a lot of time working with our campers and enriching their experience, but we do the same thing here for our zoo and aquarium animals every single day, and we connect our campers with that. So we've been able to add enrichments to the maned wolves, and what we're doing with the giant tortoises is feeding them treats. Lettuce is a huge dessert for them, so it's a win-win for campers and for the tortoises. We know that here during a summer science camp experience, we're building those experiences that will really last. They're going to learn about tortoises, but what better way to remember the tortoises than to feel one, than to feed one, than to know one's name and to learn about it as an individual. So it's fabulous.
I love the camp. It's been very fun. We got to pet a live alligator, which was really fun. We got to dissect a squid, which I wasn't expecting. It was weird. We got like tweezers and we went inside of it. We tried to write our name with the ink sac that it had, and it didn't work, so I just made thumbprints with the ink.
Here at the Science Center, we're all one big team, and when it comes to making a summer experience for our guests and for our campers, we work really well together. So education talks a lot with our animal care team, and that's why we can have such great experiences, safe ones, with our campers and animals together. The animals get a great experience. They don't get lettuce falling out of the sky every day. So they look forward to these. As I say, we enrich the animals every single day, whether it's our animal care team, which is great, but when we let the campers do it, it's a win-win all around.